Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Wigren, and I am with Stilly Valley Health Connections. I want to thank everyone for joining us for our monthly budget-friendly class, with this month's topic being the benefits of seasonal eating. Thank you to Kelsey Baker for being here from Sound Dietitians and presenting on this topic. For those of you who are joining us live, please note that we are set up in a Zoom webinar format. This means that all participants are muted and your videos are turned off so that we can record this presentation. However, we encourage you to use the chat box or Q&A box if you have any questions at all. Both of those can be located at the bottom of your screen. Now I will pass it over to Kelsey so that she can get started. So thank you, Kelsey, for being here, and thank you to those of us or those of you who have joined us so far.
All right, thank you, everybody. Tonight's presentation, as Christina mentioned, is the benefits of seasonal eating. I did do something similar on this topic last year, but we have some new information. So I hope if you came last year, you get something new. And if not, welcome. And yeah, we have a lot of information to pack in the next 45 minutes to an hour. And thank you to Stilly Valley Health Connections for putting on this presentation. Okay, so let's jump in. We are going to talk about what is seasonal eating, what it means to eat in season, the benefits of eating in season, strategies for shopping in season, seasonal eating in Washington state specifically, and how to store and preserve seasonal produce so you can have the items that you're buying in season year round. So what is seasonal eating? We think of this as eating foods, especially fruits and vegetables, so your produce, when they're naturally harvested in your local area. So some examples here in Washington State, if you guys have gone to the farmer's market or maybe the grocery store, you're seeing more strawberries right now, especially this year. I feel like they came out a little bit early since we had the warmer weather early on. And then in like September, you'll see a lot of apples. And then in the winter time, you'll see a lot of kale. So those are just some examples. But if anybody has any others that they want to share in the chat box, I would welcome that. What else you guys are seeing maybe in season right now, or if you have any examples for the fall and winter time. Something else I'm seeing right now is raspberries are just starting to come, which again is a little bit early, but I think it's from all the warm weather that we had. And then I'm starting to see just like more lettuces as well. And we'll talk more about what's in season right now. Okay. So benefits of seasonal eating. Why should we eat the fruits and veggies that are in season? And we're going to go through that. So each food has its own growing cycle. And so eating at its peak growth cycle or maturity, and when it's harvested, it's going to give you the most flavor and nutrient density. So it's going to be more packed full of those vitamins and minerals that you would get from it, eating it in season versus out of season. So an example is like a tomato in August from Washington state would have more nutrients like vitamin C and antioxidants in it than maybe one that has been shipped in from Mexico in the middle of winter, just because it's out of season. It wasn't picked at its prime time. And so that's why trying to choose these fruits and vegetables in season will give you a little bit more of the nutritional value, and definitely flavor. I don't think you can beat a Washington strawberries from anywhere else, but I don't know, maybe I'm biased. They're typically less expensive due to the abundance of the harvest, and they don't have to travel a really far way. So if you're buying tomatoes right now and they're getting them local, they should be less expensive than like a tomato that you're buying in the middle of the winter because it's come from far away. And then on that kind of same line, eating seasonally is more sustainable. So some continued health benefits besides the nutrients that we just kind of talked about. is that it adds to a variety or more balanced diet. So if we are choosing foods that are in season and we're consuming a lot of those ones at that time, then with each season, each new season will bring in new fruits and vegetables. So you'll be getting a variety throughout the year instead of like if you just eat apples year round or you just eat bananas year round, no matter if it's they're in season or not. Um, this way, if you are focusing on the ones in season, then that guarantees like you're kind of eating the rainbow and you're going to get a variety throughout the year. You're also going to be consuming fewer chemicals because they likely will have to have less preservatives to travel far, and they'll be less processed. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. Um, in season produce is also when you're buying in season, it encourages more home cooking with whole foods, which can improve health outcomes like blood pressure, blood sugar balance, and digestion. Because we're eating more fruits and vegetables, which means more fiber. And then the variety, um, if we're to give more examples, you'd be eating like leafy greens in the spring, berries in the summer, squash in the fall, and root veggies in the winter. And it usually is kinder to our wallets. So lower prices are in season because of the more supply, and there's more at the markets and the stores. Um, Zucchini can be around like 69 cents a pound in the summer, but 2.99 a pound in the winter. So it can be drastically different. There's also SNAP. They do match programs. So farmer markets often offer SNAP Market Match in Washington, giving double dollars for fruits and veggies. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you the website to go to and how to do this if you haven't. It's a really great deal to make your dollars go further with that program to be able to buy the fruits and vegetables. And you can also buy any canned goods that might be sold at markets if they're made from fruits and veggies. And then there's less food waste, which equals more savings because you're not throwing anything away. So fresher food lasts longer at home. And then preserving in-season foods can help you build a food stash for the off-season, reducing food costs over time. And again, we're going to go over those storing ways to store food or towards the end of the presentation. It is more sustainable, as I had mentioned. So you're supporting your local farmers, you're keeping the dollars in your community. There's less travel, which equals less pollution, and local food uses less gas and packaging. And then fewer plastics. Local food often comes with less waste. I know, especially when you're shopping at the farmer's market, they'll come in like the paper cartons. They usually don't have the plastic bags, and you can use your own bags when you go there. I mean, you can when you go to the grocery store too, but it's usually a little bit less. So how do you find seasonal food? There's a variety of ways. You can visit your local farmer's market and look through the booths. And when we go onto the website for the SNAP, you'll see all the different farmer markets in different communities throughout Washington state. So if you haven't been to one or you're looking to find maybe a new one to go to, it will be a great resource for you guys to use. Farmers only sell what they harvest and grow. So that's how you know it's in season, because they're not at the farmer's market going to be selling something from a different state. And then you're going to head to your local grocery store and see what there's abundance of or what's labeled on sale. So right now, if you walk in the grocery store, I definitely am seeing a lot more berries, especially the strawberries, lots more leafy greens, maybe even some zucchini is already coming in. And then look for local labels to help guide you. So in the grocery store, I know like at Fred Meyer, it says, I think in green, it will say local, and there'll be like a little produce symbol on the sign. And then you can do some research online, which I have a link here, and we'll go out to that in a minute. And then some items may not be local, but considered in season. So let's say they're coming into your grocery store, but they're coming from like California or Mexico. It could be in season down in those climates. They just have had to travel a little bit more, but if they're in season there, the flavor is going to be a little bit better. And like, as we talked about, the nutrient density. I just want to check on this question really quick. So someone shared with, check out the Cross Legacy on Facebook for food preservation ideas at work. Oh, so this is a good resource that someone in the present, with the participants that is sharing. So if you guys want to jot that one down, that's a great one. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm sure people will find this handy because there's a lot out there and a lot to weed through. So let's click on my. Okay, so if you go to the USDA website and you look through their resources, maybe in their search thing, you can hit seasonal produce guide, and then you can browse by the season to see what is considered in season in Washington State for spring. So we have a whole list, summer. So we're kind of in between these two right now. And then going into the fall and into the winter. So this is a great resource. And then if you click on one, it will take you to that and it will give you different resources for it, how to prep them. So you can click again, how would you prep fresh apples? If you want to be part of the newsletters, some additional resources on how to select and store them. That can be really handy to make sure you're picking the ripest one and then the best condition, and then some additional recipes. So this is a really great resource. I encourage people kind of playing around on this website. I just wanted to show that to you. Okay. Sorry, my computer is just being a little laggy. Okay, so in Washington State, we kind of already looked at it, but to recap, these are kind of the months that of the different seasons, and then what we would consider in season. And again, for the fall and the winter. So fall time, apples and pears, squash and pumpkins, carrots and beets, sweet potatoes, broccoli and cauliflower. And in the winter, you're getting more of your potatoes and onions, cabbage and Brussels sprouts, stored apples, garlic, and winter squash. And again, these are some additional charts that you can go on to the Washington State Department of Agriculture. And I just wanted to put these up there because what I like about these charts is that if your doctor or someone tells you you need to eat more sources of vitamin A or vitamin C, then you can look up by the category, see what fruit or vegetable is high in that vitamin, and then when it would be in season for the state of Washington. So or when we would get it here if we don't grow it here. So these I like these charts just because it kind of breaks it down in a different way and a different way to think about it. It also gives it by the food category it would fall under. So legumes, herbs, your greens, your orange foods, your starchy foods, and then others. So, just a different way to look at it and think about it. So where to buy seasonal produce? So we already talked about the farmers markets and then accepting the SNAP dollars. The grocery stores, you're going to look for weekly sales on in-season items, and you're going to look for grown in Washington signs. When you can buy them frozen in-season veggies when the fresh is pricey. Because the frozen foods are typically when those are picked and harvested to make a frozen package is usually during the in-season period. So you're actually getting just as much nutrition in those frozen ones as you would of buying them in season. So an example is like berries. It's really hard to get Washington berries, obviously year round here. Right now, you can get they're in abundance, but in the wintertime, you're not going to see them, but you will see them on the shelves in the frozen section. And those will have as much nutrients in them as if you bought them in the spring/summertime, because that's likely when they were harvested. CSA boxes, we haven't really talked about those, but that CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So they're a subscription box that you can apply to or be a part of. And some CSAs accept SNAP program, or they're based off of income. So you can apply for that. And they're a great way to just have vegetables and fruit sent to your doorstep, and either weekly or bi-weekly. And it would maybe even encourage you to try something new, because you might end up with something in your box that you've never had before. So that would be definitely worth checking out in your area. And then food banks and pantries. There's free produce during the harvest seasons a lot of times. And then if you check out with Northwest Harvest or local pantries, they will have different programs going on for the in-season produce. Food Lifeline's another one as well. And then community gardens or urban farms. I'm seeing a lot more of these pop up in the more populated areas of just little community gardens, and a lot of people are willing to do trades, or you can grow your own food if you don't have room at home. And you don't even need a lot of room on that topic. I think I shared this last year, and I don't know if I included it this year, but you can easily grow things in pots if you have some sunshine. So if you have a way to put a pot on like a patio or a deck space, and you get some heat there and some sunlight for like 5 to 6 hours, you could grow like tomatoes. You could grow some of your own herbs. Lettuce is pretty easy to grow here. Even green beans are pretty easy. And then I would say kale, but that's more of a fall winter one. You could plant it now, but you're going to have more of it in the fall and winter time. But yes, check out to see if there's a community garden nearby if you don't have the space. And also there's some volunteer programs that they will share their local harvest, because they don't want things to go to waste. So if they're getting a lot of it and not a lot of people are taking it, like they'll give it away for free. So budgeting with seasonal versus year round, like when to kind of choose the buying this in season versus out of season, and how to keep a variety going. So you're going to buy in season fresh fruit and vegetables to save money and increase flavor, like we talked about. But then include inexpensive year-round vegetables such as carrots, onions, cabbage, celery, even bananas, into your meal plans, as those ones usually don't change price throughout the year. They're pretty steady price year round. And that way you have these different ones included, even though the other ones are going to be more in abundant in certain seasons. But if you have these ones there, at least we know you're getting some vegetables in your diet. If they're on sale, consider buying in bulk and freeze for some time or use later. And we're going to talk about freezing practices in a little bit. And you want to get a variety of things for the week. Don't buy them all at their peak brightness and that they need to be consumed that day or within the next day, because then eventually something's going to go bad because you're not going to go through it all. So maybe buy something that's a little bit more on the green side and is going to ripen up on your counter in a couple days, have a couple things ready to eat that day or the next day. And so that way you can kind of spread it out throughout the week or the next 2 weeks. You're going to store in different areas to slow or speed up ripening time. So the more warmth that they're getting, the faster that they're going to ripen. Also being mindful that some items next to other items will ripen faster because of the gases that they release. So like bananas release a gas that will make other fruits and vegetables near them ripen faster. For example, if you have an avocado that you're having a difficult time getting to ripen, if you put it in a brown paper bag next to your bananas, it will probably be ripe within the next 24, maybe 48 hours. And like melons, those will also ripen up faster next to a banana. I sometimes like put stuff on top of the refrigerator, knowing that it lets off a little bit of warmth, and that will also help. And then if you have a sunny window, that could be useful as well. Ask for bulk discounts at your local farmers market. I was at a farmers market last Wednesday, and I shopped at the very end, like when they were trying to tear down their booths, and they were definitely not wanting to have to take it all home. And the lady, she didn't have it advertised, but she offered, she's like, I'd give you 3 if you buy 2. And I was just going to buy 1. So then I was like, well, I'll go through it. So I ended up paying for 2, but got 3 of the items. So they're willing to bargain with you, and just see if you can work with them. Ask them questions. That's why they're there. They like to talk about their farm. They like to talk about their practices, um, and meet other people in their community. So definitely don't feel like you're bugging them, and get to know them, and you hopefully can get a discount. And then, like I said, shopping at the end of the day for better prices if you're at your farmer's market. You can't do that at our grocery stores, but at the farmer's market. So, how to store and preserve seasonal produce. Um, this is, we want to extend the shelf life of seasonal produce to reduce waste, save money, and enjoy healthy foods year round, even when they're not in season. So, how can we do this? If you're buying leafy greens, you're going to wrap them in a damp paper towel and place in a bag in the fridge crisper. So, if you have drawers, you would place them in there in the damp towel, or place them towards the back of the fridge where it is typically cooler. For berries, do not wash them until ready to eat. You want to store in a container lined with paper towels. The reason being is if you come home and you wash them right away, the oxygen that's in the water will cause them to start oxidizing and going bad pretty quickly. So really truly wash them right before you're about to eat them or serve them. Tomatoes, you want to store at room temperature until they're ripe, and then refrigerate for a few days. So if you do buy a tomato that maybe is a little bit firmer, not as red, you want to let it sit out on the counter at room temperature before putting it in the refrigerator. Apples, you would store in like a cool, dark place, either in the fridge drawer. Well, yeah, not either. So either in a cool, dark place, they can be at room temp, or in a fridge drawer, they will last a very long time in the refrigerator. Onions and potatoes, you're going to store separately in a cool, dark spot, not in the fridge. A lot of us tend to store them in the fridge, but you actually want to keep them in a just more cool, dark place, not quite as cold as the refrigerator. And then herbs, you're going to treat these like flowers. You're going to place stems in a jar with water in the refrigerator. So storing your produce the right way helps it last longer, and it means less waste and more money saving. So what items can be frozen and canned and dried? So this is where maybe we refer to that resource that one of our participants shared with us. And then there's other ones, definitely if you do some online searching. I'm also going to go over one that WSU, the university, puts on a class for all of these. But in just for our time purposes, I'll kind of go over some ideas with for you. So freezing is probably the easiest way to preserve our food, especially for beginners. Canning can get a little bit more complicated and time consuming, as well as drying out items, but I'm definitely not discouraging it. It's just going to take a little bit of research, or maybe taking a class or 2 on it, to make sure you're doing those other options safely. But items that freeze well are your berries, your bell peppers, your greens, your corn, your broccoli, your herbs. So a lot can be frozen. And you want to wash and then chop it if needed, and then dry really, really well before you put it in the freezer. You're going to put it on like a flat cookie tray to freeze. And then once it's frozen, gather it up and store it in your individual containers or bags. And then label with the name and date. So if we were to do that for some of the produce that is coming into season or is in season right now, you can buy extra berries. This is like my favorite thing to do with berries, so I can have them year round. And you'll wash them really, really well, let them dry out, put them in the freezer on a cookie sheet, and then store them, and then it's great to use those frozen berries later for like smoothies or oatmeal. Um, I even put it on top of like cereal. I sometimes serve my kiddos just frozen berries in the winter time. It's just like a fun little treat for them to kind of suck on. So definitely worthwhile. And then if you want to try canning for later use, some great items to do this are tomatoes, apples, green beans, and fruit jams. So various fruits you can make jam ahead of time and can it. You could make applesauce with the apples. Tomatoes, you can make your own like spaghetti sauce with it and can it up. You could do like cucumbers are going to be coming out here in probably the next month or two, and you could make your own pickles. Um, I've done asparagus, except asparagus was kind of like a month or two ago, whereas when I've seen the best prices for it. But you could jar that up and kind of do your own pickled asparagus. But this is like more time consuming, and you do have to follow guidelines pretty strictly to make sure you're not going to make yourself sick with something like botulism. So it's definitely worth taking a whole class on. We don't have time to go over how to can items, just because, like I said, that it's more of like a 1 or 2 day class. But definitely worth researching if you're interested in doing that. And then drying or dehydrating your foods. So options that this is good for would be apples, herbs, mushrooms, peppers. What you do is you put your oven at a really low temperature, and then you place the items in there um, to on like a cookie sheet in one single layer, and you just let them slow cook for a really long time. I'm talking like at 195 degrees or 150 degrees, and they kind of cook all day long. Some people do it at like 200, and it will go a little bit faster, but again, something you can play around with. You literally just can cut them up and put them right in the oven. It doesn't have to have anything added to them. For your herbs, you can hang dry those out like you would maybe a bunch of flowers, and let them dry, and then crunch them up and put them in individual containers for later use. Just trying to store in airtight containers so they don't go get like pull in the moisture and then kind of rehydrate and possibly mold. But it's a great way to use herbs year round. So making it last, another way, so like we talked about how to do individual ingredients so you can add them to later, but you could also use these foods as a time or whatever's in season as a time to like make something with it and then freeze it up and then have it to thaw out for a few months later. So example would be like soups and stews. If you want to take like as it comes fall time and we get all those really nice root vegetables, if you want to cut them up and make like a really nice soup or stew, and then you could throw it in your freezer to have 3 to 6 months later. And also those root vegetables, if you pre-cook them a little bit and then are able to store them in an airtight container, then you can also throw those in a soup or stew later down the road. So you don't have to make the full on super stew. You could like meal prep a little bit of it and then use it for later. Another idea is to mix fresh and preserved. So use frozen spinach in the winter, or canned tomatoes in chili. So those are some examples of using, like if you bought spinach now, froze it up and then threw it in your smoothie, or if you wanted to do canned tomatoes as a way to save money instead of buying the fresh ones. That's a way of like having those kind of stocked in your pantry year round, like we talked about a little bit earlier. And then this is resource right here is the Washington State University extension class. So this is one that I found, but there's many options out there, but I just wanted to share this all with you because it looked pretty cool. It's a 12-week class series, and they go into all the different ways of getting food to preserve it and cut back on food waste, and use your local harvest year round. There is a cost associated with it, but it says on here that there's scholarships available and a sliding scale. So don't let this deter you from, if this is something you are really interested in, it would be worth reaching out. And I bet if you were to look through this resource more, there's probably one week classes or just like one evening class or on different topics. But like I said, canning can be quite involved, and so making sure you do at least one class on it, and I bet you could even find something on YouTube, is worthwhile to make sure you're doing it safely. But these are just like the different topics that they talk about. I don't know. I just thought this was a cool resource, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And then they have articles on here. So let's click July, since we're coming up on July very quickly. And they have different recipes for berries and talking about how to can them. It gives you canned blackberries, chocolate raspberry sundae topper, classic berry jam, and kind of how to go through and do that. So just an extra resource to look at. So how do we put this all together in some ways of like creating meals? Because it's like we can talk about individual ingredients, we can talk about how we would preserve them, or we go to the store and we see all this, like how can we make quick, easy, and inexpensive meals? So this first idea is in the springtime, you can look for your greens that are in season, stir fry those up, add some rice, and then eggs have gotten expensive, so maybe this wasn't the best example, but as far as protein goes, I would say that it's still less expensive buying eggs than some of the meat options out there. Or we could substitute the eggs with beans or like tofu, and then make this stir fry out of it. Very quick, very easy, and affordable. Mm. Oh, thank you, Christina, for sharing the resources. Okay, and then in the summertime, we're gonna get more fresh tomatoes and more cucumbers. So you could take those tomatoes and those cucumbers and chop them up, add a can of chickpeas, and then you have this nice, fresh, crisp salad. And then to get more going, remember to use the fresh veggies with the Snap Market Match program at the markets. It's kind of a mouthful. In the fall time, when we get all those beautiful, yummy squashes and the apples, you could make a homemade soup. So what you would do is you would steam up your squash and your apples and then just puree them. And then you have a soup. You could add some spices to it, however you want to spice it up. Like you could do curry, you could maybe add a little cinnamon, you could do some of the dried herbs that you maybe possibly dried up from the spring, summertime, and make a really delicious soup. And then if you want to add like a protein source to this, you could blend in either some beans, or maybe this is when you throw in a little bit of chicken or something like that, and then you would have a complete meal. And then this tip down here, use farmer market seconds or gleaned apples. This just means using some of the things that you maybe froze up from earlier in the season to make that. Or if the farmer's market, if it's still going in the fall time, sometimes they have the fruits and veggies that don't look as pretty, and you wouldn't eat necessarily just, I don't know, maybe serve it up and it's not raw form, because these are items, well, the apples you might not eat in the raw form because they're like a little bit mushy, but if you steam those up and blend them in a soup or make applesauce out of it, you can't tell. Same with the squash, if it has like a bruise or two, and that's what we consider the seconds, that they're not really wanting to sell, but they have them there because they're not bad, they just don't look as pretty when you blend it up in like a soup or smoothie or mix into a casserole. Like it's okay. It's still perfectly fine to eat. It's just not as visually appealing, but they will sell it for a lot less money. And then in the wintertime, an example would be taking some of those root veggies and then maybe combining it with some lentils and making a nice thick stew. So polk, carrots, potatoes, and lentils is equals a low cost and hearty meal. Does anyone have any other things that they'd buy in season that they'd want to share with the group before I continue on? Any fun recipes, quick and easy recipes? Okay, keep going. So the key takeaways of today's presentation is seasonal eating equals smart eating. They're usually fresher. Well, they are fresher. They're tastier and they're more nutritious. They're often cheaper and better for the environment when we're eating local and buying items that are in season. You can use your SNAP market match at Washington Farmers Markets. Look for sales on in-season produce when you're at the grocery store. And remember to utilize your food banks and your CSAs that are offered locally, and know that they usually have a seasonal option available. Store and save, think of freezing, canning, and drying as kind of your three methods of reusing foods for later. And this will help you avoid waste and enjoying foods year round. And make it work for you. So build simple meals using what's in season and plus your pantry staples, and then start small. So just try one seasonal swap this week. So if you're eating like a lot of apples or bananas, or maybe even oranges, those aren't really considered in season for the state of Washington, but maybe you swap out the bananas for some berries and just see how you would incorporate that. Like maybe you're putting the banana on top of your cereal. Maybe you try doing berries on top of it or something like that. And just see what it tastes like, and then maybe practice freezing up one item and trying it in a month or two. If you need to make some tweaks with your freezing techniques, but usually freezing is pretty simple. Let's see. So SNAP is a program available for low income. You have to apply for it, but you get money to each month to go towards fruits, vegetables, and dairy items. And you just can go, here, I'll click on this link so you can see more. A visual usually helps. So this is the Washington State SNAP Market Match. And this is the logo you would see if you're looking at so SNAP, and maybe some people think of SNAP as the EBT program, but it stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program. So it helps give money each month for fruits, vegetables, and then I believe it's dairy products too. So you go to your farmer's market or the information booth at the farmer's market and tell them you'd like to do the SNAP market match. And then you swipe your EBT card for the amount you want to spend. And then this is what's really cool about it is you're like getting double the amount. So you receive the amount in EBT tokens and the same amount in SNAP match market dollars. So markets match $25 or more per day. So you're going to check with your local farmer market. So you're getting more than you would if you were to buy the item at the grocery store, because you're getting money from the market as well, because they're doing a match program. And you can shop for your fresh vegetables, your fresh fruit, mushrooms, herbs. I was working a market a few weeks ago and I was selling this for my friend, this jarred good, but because it was all made from fruits and vegetables on the inside, the person could use their EBT tokens to buy the items. So see if the market has like a canned item that you're looking and wanting. I'm almost positive it will cover that as well. And then this tells you all about who can receive the SNAP Market Match. If you're on the Nutrition Assistant Program, you are eligible to receive this. I know it says it's not canned vegetables, but like I said, the market person let them use it. So I don't know, maybe it's market to market. This was the Edmonds Farmers Market that I was at. They won't let you use it on nuts, seeds, eggs, baked goods, or the meats. It's mostly the fresh fruits and vegetables. And then they'll match $25 or more per day. And then these are all the participating markets in the state of Washington. So you're going to look it up. Well, you could just search here. So let's look in Arlington. Spell that wrong. Arlington Farmers Market on 114 North Olympic Avenue. So it looks like this market started on the 11th and it goes to September 27th with a few additional days throughout the year. And it's from 10 to 2 on Saturdays, and they will take the SNAP benefits. And that's theirs. So again, another nice resource to explore and go through. And if anyone has any questions, I can try to help navigate some of this. And I believe that is all. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to share with the group, thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope you all have a good evening.
Hello, everyone. While we're waiting for any questions to come in, I just wanted to let you know that as you leave tonight's class, there will be a quick 6-question survey that'll pop up on your screen. If you guys have any thoughts on the class or if you have any ideas for future classes, we'd love to hear them. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple minutes to fill that out. Otherwise, we have a lot of other classes coming up with sound dietitians, and so our website has all of those highlighted. Our website's stillyvalleyhealth.org. And I also can send out the link to the next budget-friendly series when I send out this recording for anyone who is interested. If anyone has any questions, we also have the Q&A box, and so feel free to pop those in. We can give it just a minute. We do have a question, and yes, you will receive the video from today. And Kelsey, would it be possible to share the links from today as well? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, I will send the WSU one and the SNAP one. I think those were the only 2 that I did. Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you want me to share them in this, or will you email them later?
If you are able to email anything that you want shared with the class to me, then I can send it out with the recording in the morning.
Okay.
That works for everyone. And all right.
Oh, and I wanted to, Christina
Yep, go
shared
ahead.
in the chat that WSU Extension is hosting hybrid canning classes at the Stilly Valley Health Connections facility this summer as well. So that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so we've only had one class in the series so far, and that was the kind of introduction class. And so if anyone wants to attend any of the more specific classes, then there's still some spots left. I know at least online, and a few of them have spots in person. And so they dive into freezing and dehydrating and let's see, jellies and jams and salsas and relishes, and they do all the things, pressure canning. And so if anyone is interested in checking that out, for sure, those are right here in Arlington or online. So
Yes.
thank you for bringing that back, Kelsey.
Yeah.
And I don't see any other questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we log off, Kelsey?
Nope, that was everything.
All right. Well, thank you again for a great presentation, and thank you to everyone who joined us. We hope to see you at our future classes.
Thank you. Good night.